Showtime,
Woo!
people.
It's
What's up?
showtime. All right. Wow. What a week it has been. And
Yes, sir. Let's
it's
go.
great to be back here, my friend. Another day at the business temple. Woo!
We are consistent every single Saturday, 11 a.m. PT, 2 p.m. ET. Here with Ray Marquez, Alex Padron, the Business Temple, where we talk about the union of ancient philosophy and business. Let's go. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at the Business Temple.
Make sure, yes, absolutely. I know we're here to try to grow our channel. And if you want more business and philosophy, this is the place to be. And today's segment is no different. Today we're going to be doing neuroplasticity and how it affects how it affects entrepreneurs, and how can entrepreneurs learn from neuroscience to help their business. I can't wait to get started, brother. This is going to be an amazing big show for everyone today.
All right, let's go. I mean, I feel like we've got so much to talk about, so much to discuss. Before we even get into that, just want to lay out a quick disclaimer here. Ray and I, we're not experts in the neuroplasticity field. We're not scientists or anything. We are taking a very human take on neuroplasticity, and we're going to relate it to entrepreneurship. So let's do it.
Exactly. Echoing the same statement there, Alex. I am no way a neuroscientist. I only know about neuroplasticity from what I've read, some of the articles that my girlfriend, who is becoming a doctor, has given me, and other resources that are at our disposal. The science is still out when it comes to the study of neuroplasticity, and I feel that in anything that we do, we want to be honest, authentic, and give you exactly what we can give you in a way that we can deliver it. And to Alex's take, yes, we are taking a human take and an entrepreneurial take, because at the end of the day, we're entrepreneurs. We're not out here doing brain surgery on anybody. We only understand it from what are we reading, and how do we even use neuroplasticity in our everyday lives. And that's some of the questions we want to get answered today.
I've got some stories, man. I have got some stories, but so for me, neuroplasticity, it's a huge definition. I'm going to try to summarize it for you all in my own way. Neuroplasticity for me is just being able to rewire your brain or reinvent yourself. At least that's the way that I have used neuroplasticity over the years. When I found out about it back in, I think it was 2018, one of my mentors told me about it when I was just starting out to be a public speaker. I had no experience in the public speaking field, corporate training field whatsoever. And then he gave me a book about neuroplasticity, and he said, "You know what? You can reinvent yourself." And
do you remember what the book was called?
I do not, unfortunately. I don't even have that book anymore. But I know it was, the author was Maxwell Maltz.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do remember. The book is called Psychocybernetics. Maxwell Maltz. Yeah, there you go. So I just read that book. I just consumed it. And then when I found out that I could, without having any experience, without being in an environment or around people who were public speakers or corporate trainers or anything like that, it turns out that you can really rewire your brain to make it work for you and achieve your goals, whatever those goals are.
Yeah, and if everybody here or anybody is in the self-help space, or in the space of where you have these coaches and trainers, you're going to hear this word a lot about neuroplasticity, because it wasn't until recently we have figured out that our brains adapt over time. And that's what's important here, is that this is still fairly new and science, where we have discovered now, with more data and studies, that the brain can and will change over time, and it adapts over time. It expands and contracts like a balloon in some sort of way. As you grow older, your brain grows, you learn more, and then starts contracting and gets smaller as you age. But from childhood to adulthood, that is all happening. It's your brain is firing hundreds of millions of neurons at any given moment. And
Absolutely.
as you age, those neurons do tend to slow down a bit. But you, as an entrepreneur, you're smart, and we need to get your neurons firing. We need to get you that fire in your brain as well as externally. And today we're going to discuss a little bit about it. That's the way I see neuroplasticity and how it changes over time, and what it is, what the concept is in the most lamest terms that I could think of. So for me, let's start off with a question
Let's
here
go.
for you, Alex. Uh, the question here is: Can neuroplasticity help your brain become stronger?
Absolutely. So my take, another take that I have on neuroplasticity is never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
Never stop learning, because I learned that there are two types of neuroplasticity. One is functional plasticity, and two is structural plasticity. So functional plasticity is the brain's ability to move from functions from a damaged area of the brain to other undamaged areas. So let's say you fell down the stairs, hit your head, you got a little bit of brain damage here. Your brain will then adapt to that and move towards other functions. Let's another actually a better example is, say, God forbid, you got blind, right? You
Mm-hmm.
you no longer have the sense of sight. So then your brain will adapt to it and then make sure that your other senses are up to par to make up for you not having any sight.
Yeah.
Now, structural plasticity is the brain's ability to actually change its physical structure as a result of learning. Like I said earlier, never stop learning. Entrepreneurs were always consuming information, always consuming knowledge, wisdom, insight. The more of that you consume, the stronger your brain will become. So, yes, neuroplasticity definitely will make your brain become stronger the more you learn.
So, like as like any other muscle in your body, your brain becomes stronger the more that you work out. And that is actually one of the principles in one of the articles that was provided to me by my girlfriend, which one of the principles states about the use it or lose it method, and as well as the use it and improve it. So use it or lose it, meaning if you're not using that muscle, if you're not making those new neural connections, then your brain is not going to be there for you when you really need it. So if you're not constantly learning, if you're not constantly growing, your brain is not going to work for you. And if you don't use it and improve it, one of the other principles, then you're never going to adapt into new things, into improving the way that your livelihood, improving your company, or improving yourself. Because ultimately the company starts from within. It starts from the entrepreneur, it starts from the business owner themselves, and then outward. And if you're a representative of your business, the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you understand things, the better your business will do. And that's how I think of it when I'm tying together neuroplasticity and entrepreneurship, is how we as entrepreneurs grow ourselves, grow our minds, and adapt into this changing environment that the business world is.
My gosh, Ray, if I had a dime for every time I have heard somebody say, I don't want to read, especially after they come out of college. I'm done reading, I'm done learning. The learning never stops from it does not stop from there. Every time I'm coaching someone, I'm mentoring someone, always the first thing I tell them: read this book, read that book. I'm recommending this, I'm recommending that. I'm recommending for them to consume new knowledge, especially if they're not familiar in the field. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially myself, start out with zero knowledge going into the field that they want to go into. And neuroplasticity really benefits you and becoming and helping you to become that person that you want to be as an entrepreneur. So yes, I do agree that that is a muscle. Your brain is a muscle. If you're not learning, if you're not educating, if you're not exercising that brain with mindfulness and more tips that Ray and I will give you later, then you won't be able to use it to its maximum capacity.
They say the average, well, I don't know the exact statistic behind it, but they say like the average adult, I don't know, in America reads less than 2 books a year. And I mean,
Was it?
not to relate reading books to intelligence or anything like that, but it is startling how we have stopped thinking that have that notion in our brain that, okay, I'm old, I can't learn a new language, I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that. That way of thinking is what's going to prevent you from doing anything in your life. Telling yourself that I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that. The colonel, KFC, didn't he start his business when he was well into his 50s or
50s, I
60s?
think. Yeah.
Yeah, and he kept trying and pushing the secret recipe everywhere he go, and tried to make sure that he was heard, but he kept getting rejected everywhere he went until he was met with a final yes from a restaurant that was willing to put his product on the shelves, and they were flying off the shelves as soon as he put it on there. And then he started selling and franchising out and selling his recipe well into his late years. And that's one of the reasons why I do want to talk to older entrepreneurs out there specifically. It's never too late to start a new business, and never too late to go out and experiment new things. You're not too old to learn. You're not too old to grow. And it has been proven time and time again that yes, the neurons don't fire as rapidly as they did in your childhood. That's why they say it's easier to learn things in your childhood, because there's more neurons firing in your brain at any given moment, while those do slow down at a later stage in your life. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. So get out the pen and paper, get out those books, start reading, start writing things down, and get moving.
Old dogs can learn new tricks.
I love it. I love
They
it.
can learn new tricks. For example, my dad, he's like 57 right now, and he's worked as a nurse administrator his entire life. But 57, and this guy, he's getting into acting, he's getting into all sorts of different hobbies. He's living like he's younger than me. You know what I mean? People mistake me as his older brother. So I'm like, there's so much things that you can get started with, especially in entrepreneurship. You can still be an innovator, whether you're 50, 60, 70s. If you want to move on an idea, go for it. If you want to move on whatever idea you have on starting this business, go for it. It will work out with neuroplasticity. You can
Alex,
learn those things.
given that your dad is an older gentleman and still well in acting well, at least as a youth, what do you think is his secret? What makes him perhaps
Stay
happier than
young.
others, and what does he do that's different and that some of our viewers can do to perhaps once they get older have that same I guess invigoration and youthfulness?
So I'm gonna start that with a quote, and that this quote is coming from him. Age like fine wine, always be improving. A lot of people will be like, okay, I peaked in my 20s, I peaked in my 30s, 40s. Those were the good old days or golden days, whatever. But it's not. His secret is just always looking forward. It's not about looking back. You can look back to draw from the past and learn from the past, but you can't stay stuck there. It's always about in the future and just being able to not just learn new things, but explore and discover new things. Travel, be active. And I think what's important here as well, and I want you to expound on this, Ray,
Mm-hmm.
environment.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It is
We
his
talked.
environment.
Yes. Wherever you go, you make it your environment, and that is interesting too, because I know I was speaking to Rachel about this earlier too. How big the environment plays on your success and who you are as a person.
And
Now,
how that wires your brain.
yeah. So they're the three concepts of things that build your brain is like the individual, of course, the individual efforts, the tasks that you have been assigned or have been doing, whether that be a job or what you are currently doing now, and then the environment that you're in. Is that hindering your growth? Is it helping your growth? And I mean, there's also a lot of studies have been done in the connections of how our brain works in connection to how much money we're making. So
Oh,
sit back for this one.
I'm
Because there
about to
has
take
been
some notes.
sit back for this one because yes, according to a lot of neuroscientists, there's also one that I heard recently speak. Her name was Kimberly Noble, and she was on the NPR show. And I remember listening to this episode about a year, almost 7 or 8 months back, where she explains on how the your brain works from when you're from kids that grew up in poor neighborhoods versus kids that grew up in richer neighborhoods. Your caregivers that tend to make more money and the caregivers that don't make as much. So you're talking about below the poverty line, less than $17,000 a year versus a family that makes more than 100,000. And what they found is that in the development of the kids, the way that they measure whether someone is growing or getting smarter is how their brain develops over time. And the brain grows as you're getting older and learning more, and it's more physically seen as when you're a kid. The prefrontal cortex, which is involved with a lot of the cognitive thinking, and which is the heavy lifter of your entire brain, that is bigger on kids that have grown up with less stressors, this environment with less stress because of the parents had money, versus the kids that grew up in an impoverished neighborhood or an impoverished situation with parents that had less money, simply because the cortisol levels in their brains are a lot higher. The stress levels in the brain are a lot higher, which causes them to age faster, and then also it causes them to have more stress in their lives, leading to lesser development in their functionality and in their brain. So, and they did this exam, and it shows time and time again that kids in these neighborhoods tend to perform at least 60% less and worse off once they start school, like meaning going into kindergarten, into the early years, 60% less and worse on exams than the kids in richer neighborhoods and with parents with more means. So how does this relate to people with businesses today? Well, as you know, an entrepreneur, if you have more money, you can do more. The less stress that you have, if you can cover the expenses of your house and your food, and you're pretty much set there, you won't have as many stressors as someone that has put it all into their business, where they just go all in, spend everything, every single penny that they have, and they don't speak about all the businesses that fail. More people end up homeless this way, that been all the way to the top and lose it all, than the one or two examples of people that, yes, they came from a rags to riches story. Well, the rags to riches stories are great. That's the headlines we love to see, but we forget about the hundreds of other people that don't necessarily make it because, well, they bet it all. They don't know exactly how to manage their money or how to make, I guess, better neural connections of understanding that, hey, maybe this is not a smart idea. Maybe this is I should do something a little bit different.
No, you know what that reminds me of, Red? Great insight statistics, by the way. This reminds me of our last episode, which you will find on our YouTube channel, Street Philosophy and Entrepreneurship. We did talk about just being street smart and book smart. Now, I know I understand you talked about your environment growing up, right? And if you're more stressed and having issues with money or anything like that, 60% will have a hard time. But I want to ask you this, right? And this is out of the blue. It's not even in a show guide or anything like that. But as an entrepreneur, I'm not sure if you can really tell it when someone's young that this person will be an entrepreneur. But do you think that it would be beneficial? Because last episode we talked about the silver spoon and where everything is handed to them, and the scrapper, wherein the scrapper is that statistic, the 60%, where they were dealing with the cortisol and everything, and just their brain is wired to fuck with stress. You know what I mean? So which is better as an entrepreneur growing up?
Well, Neuroplasticity, and you're right into tying this into the last episode about street smarts, because it does have to do a lot with your experiences growing up as a kid. And I made an example using um, just an example using money, for example.
Yeah.
And it is to say, and it's truth, kids that grow up in money have an easier time than kids that don't grow up with money. That's a fact. That's a given. There's no question beyond that. And surprisingly enough, there have been studies done with rats.
With
And here's
rats.
when it
Okay.
gets interesting, because rats have a similar brain structure as humans, and the way that their brain is connected fires similar to humans. That's why rats are most commonly used when it comes to studying the human brain, and it's the next best thing to having a new human brain. So in this study, they had rats that were just given everything. They were given food. They were just provided with food and treated like kings, the way that a trust fund rat would be treated. Trust fund baby. Freudian slip.
Yeah. I mean, they are rats, but
and then the other side, they had uh, they set up a maze and a puzzle where the rats had to continuously try to traverse these different obstacles and then dig in for their food in order for them to survive and get food. And what they did and what they studied is this is going to be funny, is which rat is better at driving a car or learning new skills. And they made up this little contraption of a car of and then placed, let's say, a Fruit Loop right in front of it, so that's the treat.
like
and
the
then they
carrot.
had to traverse their way and drive this car in order to get the food. The trust funds babies, they couldn't do it because they never had to experience that. They never had to experience that.
There you go. That's
to
what I
get
wanted to
their
point
food.
out.
While the ones that always were traversing these obstacles and had to fight for the foods were able to get their food at least more often after about 30 or so, 20 or so tries, while it wasn't conclusive when it came to the rats that weren't getting anything. So for me, long story short, it does connect. It does. The people that have traversed through stress, have gone through those experiences, they know how to get that cookie no matter what situation you put them in, even if it's so far into them, like a rat driving a car. That's just such a foreign thing that people think, oh my God, this person can't do that. This person can't achieve that. Guess what? People that have gone through a lot tend to find ways, creative ways. And that's what's very admirable about entrepreneurs, that yes, they grew up for nothing, and then they were able to find their way to get in this rat situation, the Fruit Loop or that cookie or the money or whatever it is that they want to get in their lives.
There you go. That's exactly what I wanted to point out. Thank you, Ray, for explaining it the way that you did. You know, whether you're part of that 60% statistic or not, you can be an entrepreneur. There are obviously advantages. If you're the silver spoon or scrapper, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. But you can be an entrepreneur if you really wanted to be one. Now, what I want to cross with you or talk about with you now, Ray, is that some of the disadvantages of neuroplasticity as well. So I was doing some research that yes, while you can rewire your brain with experiences and learning like that, trauma can also rewire your brain. And I feel like that can be one of the disadvantages. I mean, we're here at the Business Temple. We're going to give it to you straight. Yes, that can be one of the disadvantages of neuroplasticity. You experience major trauma, that can rewire your brain. That can make you generalize things that shouldn't be generalized. That can, say, for example, I ride a motorcycle, right? And then I've been in an accident 6 times. Thank God I was wearing a helmet. But I didn't. What's important is that I did not allow myself to feel super traumatized by that experience, even though it happened 6 times. You know what I mean? But another person I know also rides a motorcycle, got on his first accident, and then just stopped. His brain just told him to stop. For example, it's like growing up as a kid, and then you see your mom cooking, and the pot is hot, and you touch it. And then you learn never, ever to touch that pot again. That's neuroplasticity in the works.
Yes.
Wiring your brain.
So you're telling the audience that you didn't learn anything from your crashes. You just kept doing it.
Because became still passionate about it. And then I'm just saying that trauma can affect neuroplasticity and how your brain is malleable because of trauma. If you allow it to affect it. Okay. There you go.
Absolutely. I think that does fall in one of the core principles. I will make sure to add in the 10 principles for everybody in the perhaps in the chat or later on in under the description, because it's really interesting at how those applies, and it really does lay into the groundwork of what you just said about trauma. So I feel that falls within the principle of intensity. Intensity matters. How intense an experience is, it affects the development of your brain and yourself. So trauma is an intense, I think many people would call that an intense experience, much as how maybe traveling to a new country is an intense experience, where it's you're getting all those things at the same time, and all those your neuroreceptors are receiving all this information at any given time. So yeah, trauma is 100% changes the way that you think. Because imagine if you're an entrepreneur and you started a business and that business failed. You feel that's left a mark on you, where, okay, I can't start another business because that business failed. I can't do this in this manner because it failed the first time. But that's where you need to understand, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that failure is just part of the process. Failure is, you have to fail in order to succeed, and you need to take chances. And even if you failed once, even if the business that you started did not take off the way that you thought it would, then find ways to pick up and try again, and never stop trying.
I love it.
That, like you and your motorcycle, never stop trying, even
after 6 accidents. I don't know if that's neuroplasticity or I'm just a stubborn motherfucker. But yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you pointed it out, Ray. So the Business Temple is a startup that Ray and I obviously put up last year, 2022. This would be my fifth startup. Fifth startup. So I was in the travel and tours industry, corporate training, education technology, and all that. Now miniatures business, and now podcasting, philosophy, and business here at the Business Temple. And the thing about, one of my favorite things about neuroplasticity is that it gives you an opportunity to reinvent yourself. Like we said earlier, old dogs can learn new tricks. We are constantly innovating, reinventing. We're not trying to, obviously we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we are out there putting out new ideas, making sure that we are creative, exercising our minds every single day.
That is at the core of everything that, business owners and us, we should be doing. It's constantly learning, constantly adapting ourselves and reformulating the formulas that have been set in place, because the best businesses are businesses that solve a need to a problem, that they're solutions to a problem. And you're not going to be able to find solutions if you're stupid. And that's you need
Let's give it to them. Exactly.
Even making connection from the outside world, where things may not actually connect. The drive-through, the McDonald's drive-through was created because someone saw a bank drive-through being made, and that's why we have the drive-through, because the drive-through was first created for people to get their money easier without having to go and see a teller. And was Ray Kroc? Ray Kroc. That's the McDonald's guy. He reinvented the way that we interact with food, and changed the fast food industry forever by just introducing more efficient ways on how to deliver from start to finish the foods that you get.
And then after that, we got Uber Eats.
Yeah.
And then we got literally staying at home, pressing you're taking a few buttons on your phone, and there you go. You have food in your door. I'm excited to see what the next innovation is.
Yeah.
Right? So all of that is neuroplasticity at work. Your brain is always, even if you're sleeping, your brain is always working. And that's what I want to quickly get into is that, yes, never stop learning. Ray said entrepreneurs constantly got to be learning. But for you to retain that knowledge and for neuroplasticity to really wire your brain, is you got to get enough rest.
Oh.
You got to get enough rest.
I
cannot stress this enough.
Well, tell us. Yeah, what about rest? I'm gonna go into a different angle on this, but I want to hear more about.
So when I started it as an entrepreneur, I was hustling and grinding, and I was all for that lifestyle where you're 3 hours of sleep, you're working 16 hours a day, every single day, 7 days a week, and it's just crazy. But then at the time, you just burn yourself out. Mm-hmm. So the thing about learning, you got to keep it sustainable. Yeah. Rest will help you make that sustainable. The learning, the things you got to do to rewire your brain. For example, you're trying to learn a new language. If you are trying to learn a new language, you're studying it 15 hours a day, you only get 3 hours of sleep, you will learn slower.
Yeah.
Rest will actually help you learn faster and really help the neuroplasticity lay down its foundations. So rest. If you can't, I know as you grow older, you need less hours of sleep. For me, I'm okay with 5-6 hours, but definitely when I was in my 20s, I was sleeping like a freaking bear, man. 12 hours and stuff like that. Especially when I started out as an entrepreneur, when I learned about neuroplasticity, I learned how important rest is. I know a lot of startups, entrepreneurs are out there. You might feel like there's no choice. You got to work that 90 hours a week, but put in that time for rest. Guarantee you it will benefit you, not only physically, obviously mentally and emotionally as well, but neuroplasticity plays a part there with rest. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, and I think we also did an episode of this. I was going to talk a little bit about that too, and then, well, with rest, there's a lot of studies of, like, of course, our brain keeps working; it never stops working. It's constantly shooting neurons even as you sleep. I mean, think about it when you're dreaming and then going from those stages of the dream state into the REM sleep state. That's when your brain is actually much more active than you are when you're awake at times. So there has been, without going too deep into that rabbit hole, I do want to speak more when it comes to sleep and the hustle culture. That's what I want to talk about too.
Let's go.
Where entrepreneurs do feel that you have to get up at 6 a.m, start grinding away all the way to 12, and then do it again the same day. And but coming back to your point about sustainability, you think, I don't know about you, but as you get older, do you think you can actually keep that up? Could you actually continuously do this for a long time? And if you can, hey, more power to you. But you need to really think about why you're becoming an entrepreneur in the first place. And if you're developing this new skill or developing a new habit that, well, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to continuously do this. If you haven't already developed that habit earlier on in your life, it's going to be extremely hard to do so later on. But that hustle culture, that hustle mentality, never sleep, keep grinding. Is that a healthy way for entrepreneurs to go about their lives?
I feel like, especially for startups, you have to go to that process. You have to go to that process. Mm-hmm. But if it's something that you're going to continue doing 5-10 years down the line, you'll just die, man. Like, I'm just gonna put it out. You'll just die. Like, who can just? Oh, maybe AB, our friend, can sustain that. But
oh my god,
I stopped doing it 4 years in. I stopped doing it and started really considering my mental health, because I enjoyed the hustle. Some people find it okay. I'll admit I did find that addicting. I did find that addicting, man. You know, the 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, waking, and then 3 hours of sleep, just hustling and grind. I did find that addicting. But like I said, it's not sustainable. As you grow older, you will experience the exhaustion. And once you're exhausted, what can you really do? you can't learn anything when you're exhausted, even if you try.
That's true. I 100%. I'm the same. I'm on the same boat. When I was younger, I mean, I was highly influenced by hip hop culture. I was highly influenced with my rappers. 50 Cent. I'm a
Let's
hustler.
go.
Let's go. I'm all about the hustle. When I was younger, I would no problem. But at the end of the day, where was that leading? And this is something that really hit home, and then it comes back to one of the sayings, like work smarter, not harder. It's where, if you think of the working class, you think of the people that are constantly working with their hands and then are poor. But when you think of the rich people, the people, if you're an entrepreneur, eventually you want to become part of that 1%. They're not part of the working class, meaning that they're not working. They're not necessarily working in the traditional sense of, well, they're getting their hands dirty and then they're putting all these hours. No,
Yeah.
they're developing themselves, they're developing their mental health, they're getting massages, they're actually improving their livelihood, and
Self-care.
in essence improving other people's livelihoods. And that's the whole name of their business and the name of their game. So when you think about the hustle culture, yes, when you're young, you have the vigor. Think of it like a football player. How long is their career last? Your career lasts depending on which position you play. For example, if you're uh, uh, let's say you would a lineman, those
Yeah.
people they turn over linemen every couple 2 or 3 years. So in your best years, yes, put in the effort, put in the things that you want to put in, make the
Hustle.
bank, make the bag, but don't be stupid. Don't just take all that time and effort that you work and do nothing with it. That's the worst thing that you can do. Like, to take all that time and effort and work and then go out and buy chains, and then you now making all this money and then buy cars or buy giant mansion houses, and meanwhile you're a single guy
Don't
with
be a
nothing.
one-day millionaire.
Don't
Don't be a
do that.
one-day
If
millionaire.
you are going to put the time, you're going to put the hustle, you're going to put the effort, make sure that you're the time and money and effort that you're putting is working right back for you.
Another piece of advice I'll quickly share, building off of what you just said, hustle culture. Right now, where I'm at, let me know if you're at the same place, Ray. It's not about hustling anymore. It's about alignment. What does that mean? I'm making sure everything that I do, it's aligning towards a bigger vision, and that vision includes self-care.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my 20s, I didn't give a shit what happened to my body, man. I was just let's just do this, let's just do that, and all. I was just down for whatever, down to clown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now I'm 34. I'm 7 years in entrepreneur as an entrepreneur and counting, and hustling. I'm a little. It's cringy to me now. You know what I mean? But alignment is making sure that your mental, physical, emotional, even spiritual health is all aligned in such a way where you're healthy.
Yeah.
Vitality, health is wealth. You need that.
I would say, and this is something that I also brought up to you, Alex. What if there are people out there that don't have that luxury? I'm talking about people that are actually in working 9 to 8 jobs, making minimum wage, and just to serve for their family. Like, what about those people that make up a large portion of our uh, our workforce and our environment and our society today, where I believe that is a luxury that not many people have. So I can sit here and say, hey, take self-care, go get a massage,
Mm-hmm.
do this, do that, focus on your spirituality. But a
Not a
lot of
lot of
people don't.
people have
Not
that
a lot of people have
privilege,
that luxury or
honestly.
privilege. But what I can say, there are micro moments, even if you don't feel like you have time, where you can just sit back and have like 5 minutes to yourself, and that is actually much more valuable. And to those people out there, please don't forget about yourself. Stop, be a little bit selfish, because self-love is not selfless. Self-love and self-care is it's more, it's for it is for other people, because the better you are, the better you can make others. And I strongly believe in that, and I strongly think that people that are struggling with like stress, depression, that are going through a tough time right now, that will have been through trauma, make sure that you do take care of yourself before you can take care of
Fill
anyone
your
else.
cup
Fill your cup
first.
first. Absolutely. You're gonna hear that plenty of times
Yeah.
throughout our podcast, where we always make sure that the people, the listeners, are entrepreneurs, anybody that is interested or going through a tough time. We're here to remind you, yeah, take care of yourself before you can take care of others. I say this every morning too, and it was one of my mantras. Give yourself energy, especially in the morning, before you can give anybody more energy.
Absolutely. The more energy you give yourself, the more you can contribute to others and your environment. Woo!
Yeah. Oh, we had a
That
full
is
40 on this.
neuroplasticity. Did we? I wasn't even
Yeah.
paying attention at the time. But that is neuroplasticity for you all. We're taking a very entrepreneurial, human take on this. You want to know more? There is so much to learn about neuroplasticity. I personally go to answerthepublic.com, key in neuroplasticity there. You will learn so much about it. It's a beautiful topic. And one of my key takeaways here is, of course, never stop learning. Old dogs can learn new tricks, and just rest if you can. If you get, like what Ray said, I want to emphasize that some more. The micro moments. Each day you have them, but you gotta be on the lookout for them. You gotta be aware of those micro moments so you can take advantage of it. Any last words, Ray?
Oh, my last words are: use it or lose it. Use your brain. Make sure that you adapt to new and changing environments, because that's your brain. You only have one brain, and take care of it. You only have one body. You only have this, in a way, YOLO, and you only have this life to live. Or if you don't believe that there is another life, why don't you make this one a great one too? So use your brain. Don't lose it. Continuously learn to get better and grow.
There you go. And as always, before we end the episode,